Hi there. So welcome to the Q&A session on the financial reporting. To be specific, we are focusing on the accounting standards, and we're looking at today in this video IFRS 16, that is leases. Now, in case you are not aware, I have done a two-part series on explaining the principles and the concepts underlining IFRS 16 leases and the various treatments that must be done by the lessee, by the lessor, as well as the treatment that we do on special issues such as low value lease assets or short-term lease assets, as well as the issues in relation to sale and lease back and other issues in relation to that. So I'm going to leave the two-part link in the description of this video. So in case you've not watched the lessons, that is the part 1 and the part 2, you can go back and watch those ones, because here I'm going to be solving a question and practicing a question with you to explain more the principles and the concepts underlining IFRS 16, because this is a very fundamental accounting standards on leases, and this is replacing the IAS 17, the old lease accounting. Now, when it comes to this, let me just give you an overview of the principle before we even get to the question in relation to that. Now, one of the things you've got to understand is that when it comes to IFRS 16, we are looking at not the issue in relation to what you know in IAS 17, but here we are looking at right of use of assets and also the lease liability of assets. So in a simple language, the lessee, once the lessee signs a lease with a lessor, the big question we ask ourselves is that, does the lessee has a right of use of an asset? Now, when we say the lessee has a right of use of an asset, it means that the lessee can direct the asset and control how the asset is going to be used, and as well as the lessor receives substantially all the economic benefits from the usage of the asset. So once the lessee directs the usage of the asset and also can or receives substantially all the economic benefits accruing from the usage of the assets, then we say that the lessee can recognize right of use of assets in relation to that. So that is the first thing. Now, it means that if in the question that we cannot conclude that the lessee is going to be having direction of the asset, how the asset is going to be used, and we cannot conclude that all the substantially the economic benefits generated from the usage of the asset will flow to the lessee, then we cannot account for that as a lease, and we will just treat this as a normal operating lease, normal rentals in relation to that. But where we can establish in the question that the lessee, like I mentioned, directs the usage of the asset and substantially receives the economic benefits from the usage of the assets, then definitely we say there is a right of use of an asset. So the right of use of an asset is debiting. So it's an asset, so we're going to be debiting that. Then immediately we recognize the right of use of an asset, there is also going to be the issue in relation to lease liability. So we need to recognize the lease liability. That is how much the lessee is owing the lessor over the lease term under consideration. Now, in determining the lease liabilities, a couple of things can come to play in relation to that. But I'm going to keep it simple here. I'm just giving you an overview. You can look at the part 1 and part 2 of the full course in the description box. So with the lease liability is the present value of the minimum lease payment. That's how we are going to get our lease liabilities in relation to that. So when we get a present value of the minimum lease payments, what it means then is that we will debit the right of use of assets, and then we will credit what? The lease liabilities in relation to that. Now, there are some times when, in order for us to conclude the lease, the lessee may incur some costs. So if the lessee incurs any direct cost in the arrangement of the lease, that direct cost, the double entry is that since the lessee is paying, the lessee will credit his cash or his bank account, then he will debit what? The right of use of assets. I hope it makes sense. debit right of use, it means that that additional cost that is incurred is capitalized, is added to the right of use of an asset that we are having in relation to that. Then there are some times when the direct cost that we receive, the lessor may reimburse us with some of them. So maybe we incur the direct cost of say 100,000, oh that's too much. Maybe let's say $20,000, and the lessee agrees that he will reimburse that with $5,000. Okay, if the lessor is reimbursing us with $5,000, what is happening there? It means we're receiving cash, so we're going to be debiting our cash or bank account with the $5,000, and then we will reduce the right of use amount with the cash that we've received in relation to that. I believe you're getting the principle. So these are some of the fundamental things in relation to that. So this is what is referred to as the initial recognition. The initial recognition in relation to IFRS 16. Now, I believe you're hearing a couple of like an echo. I think there's a lot of echo right here. It's because, you know, we are on lockdown, we are on closure of schools. So, but I came here just to shoot a couple of videos and a couple of master classes for our online students as well. And so that is why you hear echo. Usually that is not supposed to be, but that is the reason for the echo. And I believe that it is not disturbing us too much. So that is the initial recognition. So after the initial recognition, what do? Subsequent measurement. So on subsequent measurements, IFRS 16 states that the right of use of the assets would have to be depreciated. Okay? So the right of use of the assets would have to be depreciated on a straight line basis. On a straight line basis. Now, when we are dealing with the right of use of assets to be depreciated on a straight line basis, that means that it will be the right of use. So your depreciation is going to be right of use over the economic life of the asset. But the question we ask ourselves is, what economic life do we use? Do we use the lease term or we use the economic useful life of the assets? Listen carefully. The economic life, what do we use? Do we use the lease term or we use the economic useful life of the assets? If in the question we are giving the lease term, which will be given all the time, as well as the economic useful life of the assets, the standard states that we select the earliest of the two. So what does that mean? If the economic useful life of the asset is 20 years, okay, and we are leasing the asset for say 15 years, it means that we are going to be depreciating the asset over the lower of the two, and that is going to be what? The 15 years in relation to that. However, the standard also gives an exception to state that where the entity, that is the lessee, will receive or there will be transfer of ownership to the lessee at the end of the lease term, then the lessee will depreciate the asset using the economic useful life of the assets. Let me take that again. The standard states that, IFRS 16 states that when it comes to subsequent measurement of right of use of assets, the lessee should depreciate the asset on a straight line basis using the earliest of the lease term and the economic useful life of the assets, the earliest. However, where the lessee will have an obligation to receive the assets at the end of the lease term, then the lessee should depreciate the asset using the economic useful life of the assets. So let me break it down for you in relation to that. What does that mean in practice? It means that, yes, the asset has a lease term, economic useful life of 20 years, but we are leasing the asset for only 15 years. But as part of the contract, at the end of the lease term, the lessor would have to transfer the assets to us at maybe a marginal price or just some minimal residual value, and we are ready to buy it. So at the end of the day, it means that we own the asset literally. So because we own the asset literally, it means that we're going to be depreciating the assets, not using the lease term, but using the economic useful life of the asset in relation to that. So that is what you have to understand when we talk about the issue in relation to subsequent measurement on the right of use of assets. So it means that the carrying value or the carrying amount will be the right of use at the initial recognition minus the depreciation for the year, and the same amount of depreciation will be charged over the economic useful life of the asset. Then the final thing has to do with the issue about the lease liability. On subsequent measurements, how do we carry the lease liabilities? IFRS 16 simply states that the lease liability should be carried, listen to this carefully, the lease liabilities should be carried at the amortized cost. At the amortized cost. Now, which means that you're going to be preparing the amortized cost schedule. Now, the amortized cost schedule, you've got to be careful. The way you treat this lease payment on the amortized cost schedule will be dependent on how the lessee is repaying or is paying for the lease, the annual lease repayment. Now, if the annual lease is paid at the end of the year, there is a way we do the treatment. If the annual lease is paid just at the beginning of the year also, there is a way we do the treatment. So let me just revise with you on that. So we're going to have year here. Maybe let me rub a little above. Let me rub a little above and then illustrate that in 2 minutes. Right? Can we do that in 2 minutes? Yep. So then we have year here. We have balance brought forward. We're going to have interest. We're going to have capital back. No. Let's do payment. Capital balance. Interest. Balance carry forward. We use this pro forma if the payment is made at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year. So if the lessee makes the payment at the beginning of the year, then we bring the balance brought forward. That is the figure we got at the initial recognition. We're going to be lessing any payment. Then how much will be left? There will be interest rates implicit in the lease. So we're going to be bringing that, and then we calculate it and get our interest. Then that interest is added to the capital balance, and we get a carrying value, which will go to the statement of financial position. So what does that mean then? Now, this interest figure will go to the income statement for the year one under consideration. However, the balance here, the carry forward balance here, has to be split into current liabilities and then non-current liabilities. So, how do we do the split? This is how we do the split. Very, very important. When it comes to doing the split or dealing with the split, we say this. Because the annual lease payment is made at the beginning of the year, the annual lease payable, that is this figure you brought here, that is the annual lease, becomes the current liability. Then when we deduct that from the carry forward value, what will be left will become the non-current liability. I hope you are getting the concept. So that's the carry forward minus the current liabilities in relation to that. So that is how we deal with if we are making payments in advance or at the beginning of the year. Very, very important. Very, very important. Now, after we get this, remember we split it in the annual lease payable is current liability, and then when we deduct that from the carry forward, we get a non-current liability component. Then the question we ask ourselves is, okay, what if payment is made at the end of the year? What if payment is made at the end of the year? What do we do? How do we go about it? Now, if payment is made at the end of the year, please note this. So still we're going to have our year, we're going to have a balance brought forward, but this time around, because payment is made at the end of the year, interest will be charged on the opening balance, then the annual installment payment will be done, then boom, we get a carry forward. So the balance brought forward will come, we will charge the interest on that and add it, we make the annual installment payment payable, and then the balance will be carried forward in relation to that. But this is the sweet spot. Like I told you in the first one, this carry forward has to also be splitted into two. We must get the non-current liabilities and then what? The current liabilities. We must get the current liabilities and then the non-current liabilities. So how do we split it into the current component and then the non-current component? This is the standard. So when payment is made at the end of the year, we will do the workings for 2 periods. When payment is made at the end of the year, we will do the payment for 2 periods. Very, very important. Very, very important. We do the payment for 2 periods. So we will do another year, even though we don't need that, but in order to do the split, this carry forward will come here as brought down. We will charge the interest on that figure. We will less our payments, and then we'll get a new carry down. Now this is the sweet spot. This is a sweet spot. The new carry down, that is the second period, becomes the non-current liability, and then the difference between the first year and then the second year, or the first period and the second period, is the current liability. Does it make sense? So that is the principle when it comes to dealing with. So if payment is made in advance, we do it for just 1 period, and the current liability becomes what? The annual lease payable. If payment is made at the end of the year, we will do for 2 periods. The second period is the non-current liability, the carry forward for the second period, and the difference between the carry forward of the first and second will go to current liabilities. But as always, the first year interest, this particular figure, goes into the income statement in relation to that. So when it comes to leases, what goes into the income statement are the depreciation, the annual depreciation chargeable, and then the interest rates, period. The annual installment does not come into the income statement. But assuming we did not obtain the right of use of assets, we don't direct the asset, substantially all the benefit doesn't flow to the entity, then certainly we will go through these workings. So every annual lease payment will simply go straight up to the income statement by debiting our cash books and by crediting our cash books and then debiting the income statement in relation to that. So that is how we deal with the principle. So like I said, this is just a summary of the 2-part series I did on this, because I want to remind you on some of these treatments before I take you through the question in relation to that. And I hope you understand the principles, you understand the concept in relation to that. So I'll see you in the next video as we continue and we will solve the question on this in relation to that. See ya.